You've probably heard people talk about regional styles in Irish traditional music, how Clare music is slow and soulful, or how Donegal fiddlers play with sharp Scottish influence. These regional styles became more widely discussed during the 20th century revival around the 1950s onwards, thanks to figures like Sean O'Riordan, who helped frame Irish music not just as a national tradition, but as a collection of local dialects. His broadcasts and commentaries emphasised the importance of regional flavour in Irish music and gave listeners a sense of how much diversity existed even within a relatively small country. However, some debate whether these regional styles are pure folk inheritance or partly shaped by modern identity and branding. It's worth noting that long before Sean O'Riordan brought attention to these regional distinctions in the 1960s, Francis O'Neill had already collected over 1,000 traditional tunes in the early 20th century, yet he made no mention of regional styles in his extensive writings. This absence has led some scholars to question whether the clear-cut idea of regional identities in music is a modern framing more than a historical reality. But at the same time, what do you think? Could O'Neill very simply just have missed the pattern? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments about this, because for me this was very interesting to think about. I had studied this in college a little bit, and we did touch on regional styles across the country. Anyway, for many musicians and listeners, regional style is deeply meaningful. The idea that a fiddler's technique and tune choices can reveal where they came from is powerfully appealing. It gives the music a sense of rootedness and cultural memory. And we as humans love labelling things as well. Look, creating systems, trying to tie culture to place. It's important to approach this topic with an open mind, recognising that regional style is both a lived tradition and potentially a constructed narrative. But it's beautiful really, isn't it? Across the globe, we have different accents throughout regions, but to think that a playing style of fiddle, for example, can have different accents, different styles. It's amazing. Made to stand out more by the oral tradition of learning music back then, it makes perfect sense to me why these patterns of playing style emerge. Of those styles, few stand out more clearly or compellingly than that of Sliabh Luachra. Sliabh Luachra is a region in the hills along the borders of Kerry, Cork and Limerick. It's not a single town or a county, but a loosely defined cultural area that includes places like Gnievegilla, Ballydesmond, Knocknagree and Scartaglan. Rugged, rural and once relatively isolated, Sliabh Luachra developed a style of music that reflected its social life. Lively, unpretentious and deeply tied to dancing. Sessions were communal, energetic events, often centred around dancing and celebrations in local halls and kitchens. What sets this region apart is its strong focus on polkas and slides. These are tune types that are central to its identity. While these forms exist elsewhere, nowhere are they played with such frequency, flair and rhythmic confidence as they are in Sliabh Luachra. Hang on a second. I want to point out here that even the region of Sliabh Luachra itself is open to debate, especially when it comes to defining its musical style. The boundaries are blurry, and that's no accident. We're talking about a style that emerged not from strict music theory, but from people watching and listening to each other play. In a tradition that was passed down by ear, face to face and across townlands, trying to draw sharp lines around where a style officially begins or ends is nearly impossible. Some areas are clearly steeped in the style, while others, despite being part of the geographical Sliabh Luachra, they don't show it very strongly. The key factor isn't the map, it's the people. People moved, visited, danced and played tunes together. They weren't thinking about borders, they were thinking about what's the next tune. We communicated differently back then, more in person, more through experience. So of course the stylistic lines are smudged and overlapping. At the end of the day, it makes more sense to view Sliabh Luachra as a cultural current rather than a fenced-in territory when we're talking about music. We didn't play the way we did because we were in Sliabh Luachra. We played that way because of who we learned from, and that's a subtle but important distinction. In most Irish sessions, you'll hear plenty of reels and jigs, the dominant dance forms in much of the country. In Sliabh Luachra though, it's polkas in 2/4 time. and slides in 12/8 time. These are the ones that reign. Polkas are fast-paced, punchy, and made for dancing. They have a quick 2-beat rhythm and a strong, driving pulse that lends itself well to the lift and energy of set dancing. Slides, while related to jigs, are lighter and more buoyant, less swing and more lift. Their phrasing tends to be clean, with a noticeable pulse that reflects the dance steps. These tune types aren't just occasional novelties here. They're the backbone of the local tradition, particularly connected to set dancing, where rhythm and drive matter more than ornamentation or subtle phrasing. This rhythmic focus defines the Sliabh Luachra sound. Unlike the more elaborate and expressive playing associated with other regions, Sliabh Luachra's music is tight, bright, and dance-forward. The musicians from this region often group slides and polkas into tidy tune sets that follow local dance patterns. They also favour tunes in major keys and common modes, keeping the sound bright and driving. The result is music that compels movement. It's built to be felt as much as heard. Now let's talk about the fiddle. The fiddle is the voice of Sliabh Luachra. Other instruments like the accordion, flute, whistle, they played the tunes well, especially the accordion, or any other box instrument for that. But the regional style really comes alive on the fiddle, thanks to the physical and expressive nature of the instrument. And here are some key characteristics. Rhythmic bowing. Fiddlers emphasise a kind of backbeat, placing extra weight or lift on the second part of the bow stroke. It's subtle but crucial. It gives the music its internal bounce. This backbeat feel creates a slightly syncopated energy that dancers respond to instinctively. Simple ornamentation. Compared to the densely ornamented playing in places like Sligo, Sliabh Luachra is relatively unadorned. The focus is on the melody and the groove. Players often strip down embellishments to maintain tempo and energy. Open string drones and unison playing. You'll often hear fiddlers using drones or playing in octaves to add resonance, an open string underneath. In group settings, fiddlers double the melody rather than harmonise, creating a powerful unified sound. This music was made for dancing. It's straightforward, rhythm-driven, and easy to follow, which made it ideal for passing around at gatherings and sessions. Nobody's trying to be fancy or show off. It's more so about keeping a strong, steady pulse that people can move around to. That's what gives the Sliabh Luachra style its unique drive and character. Understanding what makes Sliabh Luachra unique becomes clearer when we compare it to the other styles. In Clare, tunes are often slower, more expressive and ornamented. The feel is introspective with lots of rolls and sliding up to notes. Clare fiddlers favour fluid bowing and emphasise emotional nuance over drive. In Donegal, the influence of Scottish fiddle traditions show up in strathspeys, highlands and sharp staccato bowing. Donegal fiddlers play fast and bright, often with aggressive articulation. The sound is crisper with many separate bow strokes, and a preference for pipe-like ornaments. Sligo, on the other hand, popularised through Michael Coleman's recordings, is bouncy and decorative, full of flourishes and technical brilliance. The style places high value on agility, variation and complex rolls. By contrast, Sliabh Luachra is about energy, rhythm and dance. It's straightforward and powerful, music that wears its heart on its sleeve. And while it may seem simple on the surface, the internal rhythm and precise phrasing required to do it well make it every bit as demanding as the more ornate styles. Any conversation about Sliabh Luachra must include its musical heroes, players who defined the style and passed it on. Pádraig O'Keeffe was a legendary fiddler and a teacher from Gluintain in Kerry. He developed a unique fiddle tablature system and taught dozens of players in the region, preserving the style when it could have easily faded. He passed on not only tunes but a rhythmic sensibility and bowing approach that came to define the tradition. Dennis Murphy and Julia Clifford, brother and sister from Lachine, were two of O'Keeffe's most famous students. Their 1968 album, Star Above the Garter, is still considered a gold standard of the Sliabh Luachra sound. They brought local tunes to broader audiences without compromising the style's integrity. Johnny O'Leary, a box player from Gnievgilla, had an enormous repertoire of local polkas and slides. His memory was a living archive. He played nightly in Killarney and was renowned for keeping hundreds of tunes alive in his head alone. Modern players like Matt Cranich, a fiddler and scholar, and Hannah Harris, who by the way has an excellent video on the pulse of Sliabh Luachra's style, I have a link for that down in the description, you should check it out. They continue to teach and perform the tradition, helping new generations absorb its rhythm and tone. Cranach's work also includes published tutorials and academic writing, adding depth to our understanding of the music. Today, musicians can learn tunes from anywhere in the world. YouTube, workshops, and online recordings have made it easier to study different regional styles, but also easier for those styles to blur together. Me personally, I learned my first few songs from my granda. Then it really took off in college, where it really ignited a love for Irish music. However, since life got busy, as it does with work and a lack of connection to people who play Irish music, I was forced to learn songs online. But my granda left me a book. You've probably heard of it, O'Neill's Music of Ireland, by Captain Francis O'Neill, arranged by James O'Neill. 1,850 melodies in there. Absolutely massive book, a great resource for learning. In this book, I feel that O'Neill tries to portray the ornamentation and style through sheet music, but it's just not the same as watching and listening somebody in front of you play something. After that, I resorted to learning some songs from thesession.org. Brilliant website, but then again, I'm learning from sheet music and simple audio, which is computer generated. I felt the absolute best resource for learning songs quick was Hatao's Tune of the Day on YouTube. You can check out his channel in the description as well. I could watch him play and imitate him and get inspiration from the ornamentation that he does. If you want to learn Irish tunes, I highly recommend to check out his channel. My point here, take me for example. The majority of my learning is done online, not from a character like Pádraig O'Keeffe, where I can learn a centuries-old style of playing. I personally don't feel influenced by a regional style, at least I didn't think so. This is what some people fear as well, that Irish music will become bland and lose its regional spirit. I am aware of that myself, and I do listen to lots of musicians from all different generations and from different regions as well, especially since starting this channel. And you know what? I begin to find myself noticing some interesting or cool ornamentation, and I will bring that into my version of the song. So actually, I do end up being influenced by these regional styles in a way. I teach a few students in the area where I live, and the one thing I say to them time and time again, just listen to as much Irish music as possible. You will learn more by doing that than reading sheet music, and sheet music will ever teach you, in the long run at least. But look, enough rambling from me. Still, Sliabh Luachra survives. And not just as nostalgia or branding. Musicians are consciously choosing to learn and pass on this tradition. Or in my case initially, subconsciously. They are tuning their ears to that unique backbeat and making space for its rhythm-driven spirit in sessions and recordings. Some organisations worth mentioning, like the Sliabh Luachra Music Trail, and festivals in Scartaglan and Brosna work to preserve the local music culture. There are ongoing recording projects, archival efforts and community concerts that make the music accessible to younger musicians. Even beyond Ireland, musicians around the world are starting to appreciate the elegance and drive of this music. It's true that regional styles aren't always pure or perfectly preserved, but still they matter. They connect music to place. They remind us that Irish traditional music isn't just a genre, it's a living map where the hills of Cork, the lanes of Kerry, and the borders of Limerick can all be heard in a turn of a bow. In short, Sliabh Luachra music is quick, rhythmic, and irresistibly alive. It's less about flashy tricks and more about groove. It's built on polkas, slides, and a deep respect for dance. And though it shares space with more polished or ornate traditions, it stands tall on its own, firmly rooted in the heartbeat of Ireland's southwest. If you care about tradition, rhythm, and the sound of place, this is one style you don't want to overlook. Thanks a million for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel as well. It really helps spread the word. If you're interested as well, check out the Inside Irish Music shop for some bits and pieces to support the channel. And good news as well, we've now got the Discord server set up too. So if you want to have a chat with other trad fans, ask questions, share tunes, or just hang out with like-minded people, the invite link is in the description. I'd love to see you all there. There's also a members only section too, for anyone who has decided to join the community through YouTube membership. But give me a shout in the comments if you have any trouble accessing the groups. I'll be more than happy to help you out. I want to give a shout out to the current channel members, or member. Here's your name on screen. Thanks so much for supporting the channel, you're the absolute best. Everybody watching this video and subscribing and engaging with the comments. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you, so thanks so much. You're all an amazing community. So look, that's it for me. Have a great rest of week. Slán go fóill. Cheers.